Hey, what's up? Silas here. So, what would you do if you thought the country you lived in was ending? What kind of threat would actually have you think, okay, it's over now, I really have to do something? And just have that in your mind, and then think about what you would do. And then think about the actual things you hear people say when they say the country that you're in is actually ending, and what are the actions they take. And also think about it yourself when you say, oh, these people aren't doing anything, and then you say, okay, this world is actually in danger, this is in threat, something I really enjoy is in threat. What are you actually doing about it? Because this is just some tweets from some celebrities about the Supreme Court justice getting into office. Now, let me just read some of these so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about with this. Okay, this is from Rob Reiner. If I'm not mistaken, he was like a director or something, or he had some shows back in the day. Anyway, the illegitimate president of the United States will now try to ram a Supreme Court of the United States nominee through before November. So much for that McConnell rule, calling on two principled Republicans to stand up against tyranny. So the McConnell rule, I think, is the whole thing where it's like, okay, you're not supposed to do something before the elections or something. But anyway, so he's talking about here how the president of the United States, of course, is going to try to ram through a new one, and actually did end up getting it in. But this is supposed to going to end the country. This is something that's very dangerous, and something needs to be done about it. Otherwise, the United States of America is in danger. Now, this is by Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle was an actor. He did some pretty good movie. I liked him in Hotel Rwanda. Really good movie, although that was a bit of cultural appropriation because what they couldn't have gotten an actual African actor to play this. They have to get Don Cheadle. This is messed up Hollywood. There's all kinds of actors in Africa. You can come here and find some male African actors and have them actually be represented, but you just want to appropriate an actual horrible, horrible situation like that, an actual situation where there was actually a situation of genocide. You want to appropriate that for your own fields and African Americans. So horrible. Kidding about that. But anyway, let's get to his tweet. Okay, Dems, this is real. Are y'all paying attention? This is how you lose a country. All of our rights are in the balance. Urge your leadership to resist when Trump attempts to appoint the next Swamp Thing out of the Pez dispenser, or kiss it bye-bye. So yeah, this is going to end the country. Supreme Court justice getting in because Trump is literally Hitler. Trump is literally the sort of person that's going to initiate something. With Don Cheadle had to research the movie. He's acted in Hotel Rwanda. He knows how horrible things are. So if anyone knows the threat of an actual despot getting into power and causing the deaths of millions of people, it will be Don Cheadle. He's acted in that movie. He knows about horrible people. So if he says Trump is horrible, believe him. The country's in threat, so you guys really need to do something about that. Okay, now this is from Cher. What can you believe in love after? There's some song like that. Sonny and Cher. Sonny was this person. They had this show back in the day. They had this group. I think Sonny died by like skiing down some slope. And again, skiing. I've been skiing a couple of times, a couple of weekends. It was a weekend with some friends from Ohio. They took me up during Christmas. It was an amazing experience. It was my size. Like I didn't really know how to ski. With my size, when the second I put my skis forward, I would just like zoom down the actual hill, and I would just. I mean, it's a really humbling experience because you do that and you're just zooming down out of control in this 45-degree slope with these slippery things in your legs. Like, what's wrong with human beings? Why are we doing these things? And then you see a little like kid who can barely walk, like a little 5-year-old, just zooming by happily away, and you're on the ground just They call this thing a garage sale because when you go to a garage sale, you find different parts of your gear. You find pants here, you find hats there, you find skis there. So when you when you fall in the ski slope, they call it a garage sale. So you're garage sailing out there, and then this little kid is just like passing you by. So it's a really humbling experience. If you have the chance to go skiing, I suggest you do it. It's a really fun thing. But anyway, that was a random thing about Cher. Sonny and Cher. Now back to Cher. She's been very political. Got a lot of plastic surgery, which is neither here nor there, is it? Neither here nor Cher. Okay, so into what she said. Supreme Court now. Completely right wing with the skull and crossbones here. I'm going to leave a link below to this so you guys can check it out as well. Trump's Supreme Court will take away our rights! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Roe v. Wade. Gay rights. Too many to list. Too many to list, or just kind of limits on your characters on Twitter. This blow couldn't be more severe. If we don't fight like our lives depend on it, some Americans could find themselves in internment camps. And like I said, she might even know Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle might have explained what happened in Rwanda, and now she knows about these things. Or maybe Cher is just old enough to have actually experienced when the Japanese were interned in internment camps. Was that a Democrat or a Republican in there? Must have been a very Republican Supreme Court at the time, under a Republican president, right? During the wars, when the Japanese were interned? Is that what? No, it wasn't. It was Democrats. So, but anyway, that's what's going to happen. Literal camps. Literal internment camps. Now we have Deborah Messing here. There's going to be a video of Deborah Messing. This is an Instagram post, so this is a bit longer, so I'm going to be able to read this to you. And there's a video as well, so you guys can check it out. She has this shirt on, looking real fierce. Her face is looking real serious. Badass feminist with a fist bump coming up on the screen. So let's see what Deborah Messing has to say, because she really cares. The country is in danger. This is what she's going to do with all her abilities. It says go on Instagram post, 14,688 likes. So she's reaching people, raising conversation. Let's see the conversation she wants to discuss here. Get ready, fight is on. Everyone who is not a privileged white man who has been treated like the other, POC, that's people of color, LGBTQ, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer, women, the differently abled, Muslim, Jew, poor, etc. And what else is in there? I don't know. I think that's all of it, isn't it? It covers all the bases. Anyway, so now we must work together and activate. We must vote. We must make calls, knock on doors, and help candidates who are looking to flip seats. We must call our members of Congress and tell them that every Democrat must refuse to hold a hearing for Trump's Supreme Court of the United States nominee, as GOP McConnell did. Because, this is what Mitch McConnell did this previously, I think, when Obama was trying to get Neil Gorsuch in to fill the empty seat after Anton Scalia had died. And he was trying to do it before the election of Donald J. Trump. And they're like, okay, we're not going to do this. We're getting a new president soon. It's going to be Donald J. Trump to do it. But now, so this is the McConnell rule. So they're saying this is what we got to do now. So until after the Russian probe is concluded, we must appeal for the exiting GOP Senator McCain and Senator Flake. Unfortunately, McCain is dead now. Senator Flake is still in there. He's also going to exit soon. But he had some situation coming up in the nomination process of last SCOTUS nominee. But anyway, and ask them to be heroes. Ask them to switch parties so we can hold off the vote. Ask GOP members of Congress who have expressed upset over Trump's policies to vote not to vote on the nominee until the Russian probe is over. No more civility. We must fight fire with fire. McConnell changed the rules. He gave us our playbook. We now need moral courage to follow it. And that's important. If Trump gets one of his nominees in, we're talking about Roe versus Wade being overturned. Gay marriage being overturned. If it would look terrible for union members and everyone who needs affordable health care, civil rights as we know them will be chipped away. Please commit to fighting this. So she's out there, this famous Hollywood actress out there in the street, this badass feminist, going out there and standing up for all the poor people in the world, all the Jews, all the Muslims, all the differently abled, all the women, the LGBTQ, the POC. She's there for you. She's there for you, reaching out for you, and we should all be very thankful because she sees a threat that's happening, and if this isn't actually fought, the country could be over. So you need to get out and do something. This is what she's doing. What are you doing in your life? Okay, now we have Jeffrey Wright. I think Jeffrey Wright was an actor. First time I saw him, first time I really noticed who he was this really good Shaft remake with Samuel L. Jackson. He was like Peoples. He was Peoples. He was this like Cuban American, Puerto Rican character, something this kind of Latinx, nondescript Latino character, like villain in that movie. I really liked his portrayal of that villain in that movie. Good movie. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. Shaft with Samuel L. Jackson. I think it was, I want to say like late 90s, maybe early 2000s. Anyway, Jeffrey Wright. Democrats need to show up and fight. Democrats need to show and fight. Need to show some and fight. What? Democrats need to show some and fight. What's the Constitution say about a president with an asterisk, who's under criminal investigation for conspiracy against the country and tampering with his own election nominating justices. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say anything about that. So, yeah. So no, it doesn't say anything about that. So not to worry. Anyway, next we have Rob Delaney. Now I don't know who Rob Delaney is, because I just don't know. He's a celebrity. He's in this article. So this is answering. I guess you guys both have the chance to put money on your mouth is. So saying the person who got in is not a Supreme Court. He's not a real justice. Trump lost a popular vote by 3 million votes. Those things matter. Own your power. Wake up. Get in the streets. Organize and learn direct action. And remember, we don't fight fascists to win. We fight them because they're fascists. So that's the whole thing. It's not that we identify who fascists are and then fight them because they're fascists. Just anyone you're fighting is now a fascist because that's what you're kind of setting up in this situation. Now, of course, the popular vote, I've discussed that. The Electoral College is there for a perfectly good reason. And then why are you going with popular vote over other things? People talk about the popular vote thing, but they also completely know there's some red states, there's some blue states. There's going to be some areas where people realize, like, hey, we're living in the state where 20 million of the people who vote are going to vote for Democrats. So if we have a situation where 10 million people are going to vote for Republicans, even if they all voted and only 75% of the people who are going to vote Democrat actually vote, it's still going to go Democrat. So in some of those states, the Republicans don't vote. In some of the states that are red, the Democrats don't vote. So this whole popular vote thing is nonsense. If that was how the game was being won, it's like saying, okay, you're playing in the NFL, you score a touchdown, 6 points, extra points, 1 point, or 2-point conversion, 2 points, or a field goal, 3 points, and then you get in a situation where one team has had the ball, has possessed the ball, held the ball for 40 out of the 60 minutes. They have 20 first downs compared to 15 first downs in the other person. They have 500 yards of total offense compared to 250 yards of total offense by the other team. But that team with the less on all those other things happened to score 3 touchdowns, whereas the other team happened to score 5 field goals. And the other team's like, oh, we scored more often. We had the ball more often. But those 5, it comes up to 15 points because it's field goals, 3 points times 5. Yet the other team that scored 3 times with extra points after all of them, that's 7 times 3. That's 21 points. You're supposed to win the game by scoring the most points. That's just the way it is. And you say, oh, well, we won the time of possession. We won the number of times we actually scored. We won the number of first downs we had. That doesn't matter. If that's what you were trying to have to win, maybe that other team would have played a whole different game. So that's ridiculous. That whole situation, you can change the Constitution later on and things like that if you actually want to do that. I think the Electoral College has a perfectly good reason to actually exist. I might leave a link below to an article I wrote when it was right after the election. I was trying to get more information on it to kind of counter that argument. And the Electoral College is a very solid thing. Because why are people so important about popular vote instead of saying like number of counties? Because you look at number of counties, look at number of landmass. There's all these kind of other things where you can say Donald Trump completely trounced Hillary Clinton. Anyway, moving on. Bette Midler. I talked about Bette Midler recently on a tweet she had about talking about how women are the N-word of the world. She was quoting a song by Yoko Ono and how people flipped out, like the feminists, like, oh, I can't believe you're saying that. Anyway, so she's been politically active, and here's another one. Here we go. Every single institution or agency in our government is being dismantled by this administration. Congress, gone. Supreme Court of the United States, gone. The executive branch is in the hands of a madman. The FBI, DOE, EPA, etc., etc., etc. And you thought it couldn't happen here. So what exactly you thought couldn't happen here? Is she talking about, again, a Hotel Rwanda type of situation, like the Rwandan genocide? Is that what they're fearing? Internment camps? And these are the things. When you actually hear somebody say the country is in danger, what do they mean? When somebody says, oh, the white race is in danger of having a white genocide going to extinction, what do they mean? What are they actually doing to stop that? Are they just tweeting? Are they just talking in little like private groups? Are they out there having kids of their own? Are these people actually going and investing and actually saying, this is a proof of what's happening? Let's try and actually address this situation in this way. Let's counter it with this. Look at the things Trump has done compared to what it was back then, to what it is now. What's the kind of situation? I mean, because if you really thought there was a threat, wouldn't you do something about that threat, or are you just kind of talking about it? Okay. Now, John Leguizamo. John Leguizamo is an actor. Again, I think he was in Spawn. He's done some other things. I'm forgetting exactly what. But anyway, here we go. Here we go. This is what he says. No more playing nice with Republicans because they have never played nice back. Fight back and fight back smart until the bitter end. F civility. They ain't never been civil. So yeah, again, couldn't you just show some examples of this lack of civility? And anyway, so there's this whole thing where they say, okay, the people on the right are the ones who have actually gone to the gutter, so it's now to go down there. And now we have politicians talking about how, oh, when they're down, you got to kick them when they're down because that's what we do. I think Cory Booker said that. Don't quote me on that because I'm not quite sure who said that. But they're only talking about how it's becoming worse and worse and worse. The actual amount of violence that's happened towards Trump supporters, people on the right, is ratcheting up. There's over 250 accounts of it now in these last 2 years of the Trump presidency, and it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. But anyway, Comedy Central just puts this out. Supreme LY effed. So that's just what they go. So they get thanks because of the justice leaving and then new justice coming in. Now, this is Kathy Griffin had this to say. Kathy Griffin of the fame of holding up the head, the bloody head of Donald J. Trump in supposedly some kind of protest or making some kind of statement to the people. Anyway, drop everything you're doing and register to vote. So they're saying change your vote. Just do these things. You gotta adjust these things. So I mean, there we go. Okay, now here we go. Kal Penn. Kal Penn was from Harold and Kumar. He's another actor, and then he retired from acting for a while, and he was part of the Obama administration in the executive in the White House, and somehow I think it was something to do with outreach to people and things like this. So he knows people. He's on the pulse of the people, even though he was a celebrity. He's still down with the folks. And he says, block any nomination that isn't Merrick Garland. Block any nomination that isn't Merrick Garland. Block any nomination. So you know that whole repetition thing. Repetition thing works. This is how things go. You gotta repeat, rinse and repeat, and people will finally get it. You repeat something long enough, it'll get into somebody's head and they'll understand what you're going to do. So Merrick Garland is a person who President Barack Obama at that time, former President Barack Obama, was trying to actually nominate into the Supreme Court, and then they said, okay, now we're going to wait for Donald Trump to get into office before we actually nominate anyone. So yeah, they're saying that's it. So Michael Ian Black, another actor. I think he's more like a comedian actor. I don't know. I can't remember what he's acted in. Stock up on abortions now. Roe v. Wade is gone. The abortion thing is just another weird thing. Stock up on abortions now. So even if you could, I mean, you can't, it's not that you can stock up. It's not like, I guess if you count like the actual pills, morning after pills as some kind of abortive process, because like conception could have actually happened, and then you take that and actually ends the kind of situation. Although I think some morning after pills is supposed to prevent the actual conception even occurring, but I'm not quite sure about that. So anyway, this whole situation, again, with the abortion, my whole situation is I cannot identify a point where I say this has changed from just a collection of cells to a human life that is actually worthwhile. So for me on that situation, I'm still saying if you want to choose to do that, choose to do that. But just admit you're not just removing some cells. It's not just like clipping your toenail. It's not like getting a haircut. It's not even like removing a cancerous tumor, a growth in your body, because that cancer in your body would not eventually become a human being, would not eventually become an independent creature able to live independently from you. It's not something most people did not. I know people choose to smoke cigarettes, choose to do things and get in situations that raises their cancer rate and things like that. But it's not something you do actions to willingly get into. Like if you have cancer and then you're like, most people aren't sitting there like, I need to encourage my cancer. Like if you just found out your cancer was just taken away from you somehow, you'd be upset. You'd be like, oh my God, somebody took my cancer. But if it's a kid, you plan for these things, or you have these kids. It's a different situation, but it's so odd to me how blasé people are about the whole abortion situation. Like stock up in abortions, have more. Like get to a situation where you're getting pregnant so you can. Why don't you just actually plan your intercourse? Just you can abstain. That's the safest way, of course. Just abstain from having intercourse with people who you aren't until you are prepared enough or willing enough to raise a child with this person. Both for men and women. Men, keep it in your pants. Women, keep them out of your pants, keep your legs closed, and just have a better kind of situation. Now, post that, yes, there are people who go and have abortions when they're actually with somebody that had kids already. I think they said something like 45% or something of people who have abortions had a kid already. Probably less than that, probably like 25%. Anyway, back to this thing. Just really weird how blasé they are about that. Bill Eichner. Today is a good day to give whatever you can to Planned Parenthood action. So this is So this is just with Planned Parenthood. Just kind of they were just posting something saying, "Oh, there's another nomination coming in, so freak out." So yeah, now this is by Moby, who is this musician, bald musician. What does he look like? He looks like this one character. He looks like the principal from. There was even a joke going on in the Community show about the principal looking like Moby, and he went as Moby for a Halloween costume in that show. And I think Moby might have actually come. And was he in the show? No. Anyway, so back to this thing. So he just posts, as Donald Trump is under investigation for collusion with Russia and other criminal activities, I suggest the next president nominate our Supreme Court justice. So they're saying wait until 2024 because Trump is going to be there until 2024. He's getting 2 terms. 2 terms, 2 scoops, 2 genders. But yeah, so that's what Moby's saying, but I don't think that's going to be a thing. So Ali Maynard here. I didn't cry when Trump won. I have never once lost hope or my will to fight over the last months. But with this Supreme Court nomination coming, I have been hysterically crying for an hour. Yeah, so this is the end of the world. This is the end of some kind of world that they think. And hysterically crying. Is that what you do if the world was ending? But what would you do after you stopped hysterically crying? You just tweet about you hysterically crying, or would you do more? Anyway, so Whitney Cummings. Okay, yes, I love The Handmaid's Tale. That doesn't mean I want to live in it. So, this was a response to a Vox thing when Vox was posting about how overturning Roe v. Wade, reject challenges to capital punishment and solitary confinement. So just saying the things that are going to happen once this new Supreme Court justice gets in. Now, we have Kevin McHale here. I think this is actor or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be the last one here. So, hey, F off everyone who voted for Trump or didn't vote at all. The Supreme Court of the United States is going to be a dumpster fire, and it's your fault. And we're going to have to live in that for the rest of our lives. Then the clap emojis. So this was people posting back in June 27th, 2018 about Justice Kennedy stepping down and getting the situation where now Brett Kavanaugh was nominated and he got in. And you see this kind of action, this kind of freaking out about things that are supposed to end the country. So is it going to end the country? Has it ended the country? What have you seen so far since then? Since he's been in, what's the difference that has actually occurred? And 1 second, I'm going to just do something real quick and come right back. So those posts I was reading to you before were just the announcement of Justice Kennedy actually stepping down, and then that was pre-nomination. So let's go into some posts of what happened after Brett Kavanaugh was actually nominated. Because I just want you guys to think again, if you truly think the world is ending, what kind of things would you support to end it? Would you be able to support actually accusing somebody of getting as far to being a gang rapist when they were a kid and just ruining somebody's life in that way? Is it completely worth it? Because you get to that point where you see someone like Cory Booker coming in after and saying, oh, it doesn't matter if he did it or not. What matters is he needs to not be the nomination. He needs to not be in the Supreme Court of the United States of America. You've got to understand how they actually view it. Some idea, whatever idea they have about what the United States of America is, when they say that world is ending, realize they're not looking at that world in the same way that you are. When you think about the United States of America, when you think of your reality tunnel, your world, it actually may be being made great again by the MAGA movement, but whatever that is may be completely antithetical to what they have in mind. Even though I think when it comes down to it, since they actually hardly ever actually point out the things that they think are actually going to happen, it's a lot of virtue signaling, I think it's still going to improve their standard of life anyway, and they're just still going to benefit from it. But you got to understand, if you actually think these people are evil in that sense, you are going to be okay with completely lying and destroying somebody's life for that. You're going to be okay with using people, because those women that were used in the whole process of accusing Brett Kavanaugh have been thrown to the side now. The world hasn't ended. At least they haven't never stated exactly what's going to happen. Definitely no internment camps and things like that yet. If you still think that somehow that's going to, I don't know. Anyway, so let's see what happened after. This is after the nomination was already made. So this is around July 10th. This article is from July 10th. So now you can kind of see how did it actually end up to that whole Brett Kavanaugh situation. If you'd actually been following the reaction of people, and I know these are celebrities and things like that, but this is not that, it's not that off from the way you average Democrat, progressive, politically active, the type of people you'd see out in the women's marches, hashtag kind of activism, kind of think about these things. These guys are echoing it. These celebrities aren't saying this because they've sat down and actually thought about it. They're like, hey, these are things that we kind of understand if we say it's going to be generally popular and people will kind of go along with us. There's been enough people yes-manning us in our lives, and we're also hearing what other people have said, and we're kind of putting some kind of megaphone on it and putting it out there, spreading it out there for more people to actually hear. And you can see the likes and shares and things like that that come after. So Joss Whedon, he's an actor, no, not an actor, he's a producer, director, writer, but yeah. So even considering this nomination will cement the first American dictatorship. Hashtag Kavanaugh. Yeah, Ron Perlman. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Okay, ladies and gentlemen who care and respect ladies, it is official. The move back to medieval values, Sharia law even, where old, bitter men and women get to tell women what is best for their bodies, lives, and well... What? I can't even read this thing. It's just ridiculous. Let's get back to this thing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen who care about and respect ladies, it is official. The move back to medieval values, Sharia law even, where old, bitter men get to tell women what is best for their bodies, lives, and well-being is a done deal. Is as done a deal as this is Twitter. Unless we say no. It's done. Okay, Julianne Moore is an actress. Please, we must send the Senate a clear message. This country cannot afford a justice on the Supreme Court who is likely to support gun lobbies' extreme absolutionist interpretation of the Second Amendment. Message your senators now. How do you have an absolutionist interpretation of the Second Amendment? It just says you have the right to bear arms. So if something is considered arms, you have the right to bear it. It's rather clear about that. You're allowed to defend yourself. And yes, there are other regulations on what kind of guns you actually need to have to actually defend yourself, because that's the general thing. You need to be able to defend yourself, and also defend yourself mostly from a government that could actually take over the country. And we've seen this multiple times. The people who say he's literally Hitler, Donald J. Trump is literally Hitler, also don't understand that part of that process was disarming the actual people. And then, as I mentioned before, you can even get to a situation where someone like Don Cheadle has studied things like Hotel Rwanda, those genocides that happened. And those happened, yes, people had guns, but most of it was horrifically enough done with machetes. People just going around just hacking people down. Now, if you have a more armed populace, it's a lot harder for a group of people to just go in and actually just use machetes and stop people. If a few people have guns, or just people on both sides, there's some kind of evening out of that situation. Definitely when you have a situation like what Ron Perlman was talking about here, about bitter men getting to tell women what they can do with their bodies, one of the biggest equalizer for a woman is to have a weapon, is to be able, because that gun will be able to stop some man who's twice their size just on their heels. Versus if you have people unarmed, disarmed, then the criminals will already break the laws to get the weapons and even have a higher advantage over the people who are following the laws. But anyway, To Rob Reiner, it's official. Trump, who is now under investigation for the obstruction of justice and conspiring with the enemy to destroy the democracy, has selected the judges who could rule on whether he can be forced to testify, be indicted, or pardon himself. Autocracy, here we come. Vote. So who's voting? Out of the American people listening to me, are you guys voting in the coming up election in November? What are you voting for? How much has the recent activities changed? Have you actually had any celebrity, whether it's a right or left, that has said something that has made you think like, I wasn't going to vote, but now that this person said this, I'm actually going to vote? I would suspect that if that's happened, it's mostly a celebrity saying something and then you coming out and saying, okay, I'm going to vote against that, what that person said. Because I'm really insulted by this person. Although the things like apparently Taylor Swift came out and Taylor Swift came out and actually endorsed some Democratic nominees, and that actually raised the amount of people signing up to vote. So I don't know. There's got to be some effect. I mean, people are swayed by these things. People are swayed by advertising. There's a reason people are talking like this. This actually does engage people. I mean, part of the reason I'm making these videos is because I don't think I just say these things and it doesn't affect anyone. I realize like I say things and then people hear them and we interact and we can have a back and forth. Yet some people would prefer they say things and then other people hear, and just like non-playable characters, they just completely react and they don't have like some kind of interaction between them. But anyway, let's go. Stephen Colbert. So Stephen Colbert. Colbert. He's a comedian and he has a late night show. So a senator once called Brett Kavanaugh the Forrest Gump of Republican politics, which I think makes Merrick Garland the castaway of Democratic politics. I don't get it. Moving on. Michael Moore. Anyway, Forrest Gump was good. I really liked Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, I mean, I guess he was like an idiot savant or anything. They're talking about him being slow. Isn't this kind of like shaming, ableist shaming or something? But anyway, Michael Moore. This is a producer, director. I think he's even more of an activist than anything now. That's like one of his main things. But anyway, here we go. A senator once called... No, sorry, that was a different one. What else do you need to know about Brett Kavanaugh other than he worked with Ken Starr to impeach Clinton, worked to help W win Bush versus Gore Supreme Court case, and worked in both Bush White Houses, recommended to Bush to put Alito and Roberts on the court? He must be stopped. So, I mean, in this kind of situation, there's a handful of people who's actually going to be high enough or qualified enough or meet any kind of situation enough to be nominated for these positions. So pretty much anyone you nominate, you're going to find they have all these connections with these people. It's a bit incestuous of a relationship out there because these are very high level people, very limited amount of people. There's probably like 50 people who are realistically actually going to be nominated for these positions when they come up. And all those 50 people have worked with each other and things like that. There's probably things you can find that Brett Kavanaugh has done which Michael Moore would support, but he's of course going to point out the things that he doesn't. Now, I want to also ask people out there, whether you support Brett Kavanaugh or didn't support him during the process when he was being accused of these kind of sexual harassment things, what are the things that made you want to support him without that being mentioned, just on his actual qualifications, if you knew any? Because I think there was a lot of people who were just supporting him just because the left disliked him, and of course a lot of people on the left were disliking him just because Trump nominated him, not because of any actual things that he'd actually done. So at least he is trying to provide some things. But anyway, John Cusack. John Cusack, I think, was the one from like that movie where he held the stereo to the window to the girl and he was singing. I forget the movie. 16 Candles? It wasn't 16 Candles. Was it 16 Candles or something? Anyway, contradicting himself as a partisan lackey all by himself. Just lay his job record against his legal positions. Who are you going to believe, him or your lying eyes? Worked for Ken Starr, but the president shouldn't be indicted. Trump picked his very own Supreme Con. Okay, so this is a response to somebody who tweeted that it looks like Trump picked a former Ken Starr henchman who now says he doesn't believe sitting president should even be investigated, much less indicted. Who'd have thunk? So I guess that's a little flipping, but we also talk about this, how people say you can change. I mean, the same people who say you can change your gender also will conveniently go out and say somebody can't change the way they think about the world over time. Now, I don't know if this is a flip-flop. Why did he go through that process before, and then why the investigation and the indiction? Then he's saying it shouldn't be happening. Now, I don't know the context for this, but just anyway. So Jeffrey Wright again, Mr. Peoples again. This was the response of a tweet to the Fox News tweet about the nomination, saying, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, I will always strive to preserve the law and the Constitution of the United States and the American rule of law. Jeffrey Wright says, see your nominator who has been the subject of a criminal investigation, and Merrick Garland should never leave Democrat lips. Never. So again, they're bringing the Merrick Garland thing back as saying he should be put in there. But criminal investigation does not mean guilt. It's an investigation. It's not guilt. And this Russia thing is still out there. But anyway, so annoying. Alyssa Milano, who ended up actually seeing this through, and like she's actually gone through. And this is the kind of thing, in a way, I kind of do have some kind of respect for these people. For someone to Alyssa Milano, whatever she thinks the United States of America is, she actually thinks it's in threat, and she's actually going to go as far to actually go and show up in the actual Supreme Court hearing, found a way to get tickets, found a way to be in the room, found a way to be in the back of the Supreme Court, staring daggers at Brett Kavanaugh the whole time, and then getting in newspapers. Some magazine was talking about how brave that was, how awesome that was. Yet, if that was flipped over, imagine if it was a female Supreme Court nominee getting accused of something that she did, gender-based, and then you get a situation where there's some male Republican celebrity in the back, like, staring at her. That would be covered in an entirely different way. But again, if everything was good for the goose, was good for the gander, we'd all be geese. I don't think men and women are the same. Yet some of the people who say men and women are the same, because I don't even believe them, but at least they say it. When they say that, just think about things like this, where if you flip around the genders, it would be treated a whole different way. Alyssa Milano staring daggers at Brett Kavanaugh is a brave and powerful thing, showing up like, yes, she's standing up for us. A male celebrity doing it opposite would be some kind of threat. The male gaze is a threat. It's a proof of patriarchy, angry people, and things like that. It's just, it's garbage. Moving on. Alyssa Milano wrote this, posted this. The government has permissible interests in favoring fetal life, protecting the best interests of a minor, and refraining from facilitating abortion, Kavanaugh wrote, calling the majority's approach a radical extension of the Supreme Court's abortions jurisprudence. So anyway, so this is what she wrote with that posted. Brett Kavanaugh is just on one case. Okay, this is Twitter, so people don't write this like it's not edited and things like that. Brett Kavanaugh, in just one case, attacked women's rights, healthcare, and immigration. He's the trifecta of terrible, and he must never sit on the Supreme Court. Call your senators. Don't stop calling. So again, this was on July 10th, and again I'm saying, at least I'm tipping my hat, if I had a hat. I have a hat anywhere. Don't have a hat. But tip my proverbial hat to Alyssa Milano for actually going through. She is putting it out there. I know being on the political left is not as risky as being on the political right, but she's still going out there and she's actually seeing her things through, going out, spending her time and her money and things like that, instead of just like hashtag activism. Because some of these people are just more like hashtag activism. But she's actually going out there. So at least with that, I completely disagree with what she's doing with her points and things like that, but I actually give her some kind of props for actually seeing this thing through. But anyway, abortion is not directly about the women's rights. It's more about the child. That's what people mostly focus on, is the potential life of that child, the potential child that's actually been conceived. That's what they're focusing on. And sometimes that child is also female. Sometimes that's also a minority child. Sometimes that's also a child of an immigrant. So that whole situation of, abortion is anti these things, it's not. Chill with that thing. Chill. Okay, Bill Eichner. I don't know who Bill Eichner is. This is a response to Amy Siskind. Amy Siskind wrote, I'm so done with the reality show drama of Trump's Supreme Court of the United States pick. Change the channel every time the media plays into it. The point is no vote until midterms and Mueller's Russia probe is over. Call your senators today, demand it. Puts the senator's number there. Bill Eichner said, stay strong, Democrats. McConnell is a liar and a monster. Fight the good fight. Give him hell. So I don't know what Bill Eichner did with this whole situation. John Leguizamo posted here again, no vote until the midterms and after the Mueller investigation. So the Mueller investigation just keeps going and going and going. So they're supposed to do nothing until after that's done? I don't know. Josh Charles Can't wait to see what garbage the king of garbage picks for the Supreme Court of the United States. The anticipation is killing me. Oh, the insults, the words. I'm sure he's going to be crying about this. Crying, just tough. Just can't do it. Ed Hornick wrote this. In 2009 piece for the Minnesota Law Review, Kavanaugh said that he believed presidents should not be subject to civil lawsuits or criminal investigations in office because they were time-consuming and distracting. And John Cryer, who was an actor, responded this to them. John Cryer's entire. It's kind of a cool kind of name for him. Anyway. So the first question every Democratic senator should ask Kavanaugh, will you recuse yourself from any case involving whether the president can be subject to criminal investigation, required to testify, or indicted? So they're saying because he said that in the past, he should kind of recuse himself with those kind of situations because he's kind of setting up a bias, but then if it's constitutional. So, I don't know, setting that up. Last one, last two, last three. Let's just run through them really quick, get to the end of this whole situation. Cynthia Nixon, with Donald Trump's pick from the Supreme Court of the United States threatening to reverse Roe v. Wade, it's more important than ever to fight back and enshrine abortion and access to contraception. Join us with the Vote for Choice rally at the Save Roe Union Square tomorrow at 4:30. This is Union Square in New York. She ended up running for office. She got trounced. She didn't actually get in there. But she was running, I think, for, was it governor or mayor of New York or something? But anyway, she was an actress in Sex in the City. It was Sex and the City. Sex and the City. So that was a popular show on HBO. And she's come out with this situation. And again, she's done this, but she's also getting herself politically active. So again, kind of tip of the hat, she's actually getting active in there. Andy Richter, who is a comedian, he's on the Conan O'Brien show. Why does anyone talk about this president as if this is all caps? Why does anyone talk about this president as if the fact that he's carrying out a Putin-assigned chore list isn't as obvious as the blueness of the clear sky? It's like, this is insane. Yeah, people actually, like, can he actually believe this and just keep going on with his daily life? If you actually think your president is running some kind of scheme of Putin, you either don't think Putin is that evil, because you're just still going every morning when they record this show, or late night, I think they record it in the morning. Every time you're just going back and you're sitting there with Conan, you're laughing and other celebrities come on, like ha ha ha. And this whole time you think there's like essentially a Manchurian candidate as president? Is that how you behave while this is going on? I don't know. It's really weird to me. So Ken Olin is going to finish this off. I don't know what kind of judge Brett Kavanaugh is, but he and all the other white and, in many cases, old folks at the event looked so out of date, so out of sync with what the world is becoming, what the world needs to become. A last gasp of a way of life were passed. Sad for the U.S. So just the innuendo being thrown there. What is he talking about? Just looked a certain way, looked out of date. What do you want to like hip? What do you have like cornrows or something? And like, what kind of thing would make him seem more in? I mean, the focus people have on people's appearances versus the actual content of their character is so clear to see. They're talking about how things are clear to see. No, I can clearly see the racism of these people. I can clearly see the isms these people are focused on, the appearances and the things instead of the content of these people's character. He even states he doesn't even know what kind of judge Kavanaugh is. But that's the point. He's going for the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The most pertinent thing should be what kind of judge he is. So if you have the time to worry about what he looks like, when he actually find out what's the content of this, what are the qualifications this guy has for his job. So that's it for this post. It's a bit of a longer one, but I kind of wanted to read these things so you can kind of just think, when you hear certain people talking about how the world is ending, what do they mean? And does it actually end the world? Because you can go back over time and find things when the previous guy was put in, Neil Gorsuch, when he was put in, there was similar tweets and things like this from celebrities freaking out, especially when it comes to celebrities. Please realize that most of these people in general have more money and time than your average person. So also look and see what kind of things are they doing with this high amount of money and time in order to actually that would actually back up the kind of things that you think would have to occur for the world that you like to be ending. If you had their ability, what would you actually be doing? Does that make any sense? That's it for the video. Like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about these things. Let me know of any other situations where you've actually been like, okay, that person's actually doing more, and I may not agree with what they're saying, or I do agree with what they're saying, and I actually appreciate what they're actually doing with it. How effective do you think these tweets and things are in changing people's opinions and things like that? Yeah, that's it. Goodbye. So one last thing here. With this whole people making fun of celebrities or other people for hashtag activism and things like that, and also them looking at people coming into the United States from other countries and saying, why don't they just stay in and fix their own country? Well, there's actually some threats. You might think the celebrities are like, okay, what actual threat do you see? But a lot of the people who are making fun of these celebrities and also asking people to, why don't they stay in their own country and fix their own country, will also not be able to actually go out and risk their own jobs or risk some discomfort with their friends by talking about the things they care about when they're not on the levels of threat that speaking out in some of these other countries actually does get you out. The same way people make fun of the celebrities and say, what are you talking about in internment camps? What actual threat do you guys have? I also ask these people, why don't you guys do more in your personal life and talk about these issues when you look at immigrants coming in and saying, illegal immigrants coming in and saying, why don't they just stay in their own country? Because in their own country, sometimes trying to save that situation actually involves them dying. Yet you realize that enough of a threat to your job, at least you think, just your livelihood, just losing a friend here or there, just not being invited to a dinner party is enough for you to be like, I'm not talking about this topic.